What if I told you that after all the chaos with Ace, Nic, Olandria, Taylor, Cierra, and the whole Love Island Huda saga on Love Island USA Season 7, the villa drama now looks almost calm compared to what's happening after the show? Because while fans are still arguing over who should have won Love Island, who ruined whose chances on this dating show, and whether Nic and Olandria was real or strategy, Nic and Olandria have quietly done something wild. They've turned a messy reality TV storyline into one of the biggest glow-ups we've seen from a Love Island USA couple. Nicolandria, Nic and Olandria, are out here collecting awards, walking major red carpets, partying at F1 with A-listers, and landing acting roles with Google, all in a few months. And the most insane part? Half the people fangirling over them now are the same celebrities everyone else grew up watching. Before we get into how Ace, Nic, Olandria, Taylor, Cierra, the Love Island Huda drama, and everything that happened on Love Island Season 7 basically set the stage for this Nicolandria takeover, do me a tiny favor. If you love keeping up with Love Island USA chaos and Nicolandria updates, hit subscribe like you're voting in the Love Island finale. Fast, emotional, and slightly delusional, but extremely effective. All right. Let's talk about how Nic and Olandria went from second place on a dating show to first place in real life.
When you think back to Love Island USA Season 7, it's honestly hard to remember a single quiet day. You had Ace stirring conversations, Taylor and Cierra getting pulled into drama, the whole Love Island Huda situation turning Twitter into a battlefield, and in the middle of all that, this slow burn connection between Nic and Olandria that nobody could quite figure out. At first, even the idea of Nic and Olandria together felt complicated. Nic had been coupled with Cierra, Olandria had her own connections, and people were debating loyalty, girl code, and whether anyone was actually serious or just playing the long game for votes. This wasn't just a cute vacation, this was full-time chaos with a side of sunscreen. But as the season went on, something weird happened. Among all the yelling about who was fake, who was loyal, who used who for clout, one pairing kept pulling people back in. Nic and Olandria. The way they talked to each other, the way they moved back together after casa moments, the way their vibes somehow felt both chaotic and weirdly grounded at the same time.
By the time the Love Island Season 7 finale hit, Ace and the others had their own storylines. But it was Nicolandria that people were editing, clipping, and rewinding. They didn't even win the show. And still, their fan base, Nicolandria Nation, was louder than half the winners of previous seasons combined. And that's where this story really starts. Because usually, once a dating show ends, people drift back into normal life, a couple of brand deals, maybe a podcast, and then the timeline moves on. Nic and Olandria looked at that script and said, no thanks. But nobody was ready for just how far they were about to take it. The minute Olandria left the villa, it was like award season and fashion season decided to adopt her at the same time. Within months, she wasn't just that girl from Love Island USA. She was showing up on list after list and stage after stage. A People's Choice-style honor at Ebony's Power 100 Gala, recognition at Fortune and Forks, a spot in Cosmopolitan's Z-Stars class of 2025, a place on a major, most influential list, and more. But there was one night that hit differently, even for people who don't watch Love Island. The Give Her Flowers Gala, where Olandria received the Self-Love Award from Femme It Forward. Picture this. It's November. The room is full of established stars, executives, stylists, and people who have been in the industry for years. Cameras flashing, champagne glasses clinking, and then the host announces that the next award is going to a woman whose message of self-love has reached millions in an incredibly short time. The name they call is Olandria Carthen. And here's where it goes from cool to core memory. She didn't just walk up to grab a trophy and pose for a photo. Her mom was the one who came out to present the award.
In front of all those people, her mother talked about watching her grow, about self-love being the root of everything, and about how Olandria doesn't just talk about self-love, she practices it in the way she works, in her friendships, and in how she shows up for the world. By the time Olandria took the mic, you could feel the energy shift. She didn't make it about perfection or having it all figured out. She talked about self-love as a process, about patience, forgiveness, and choosing peace. She talked about refusing to keep shrinking herself to fit old wounds, and about finally believing that you are enough even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. That's not just a cute quote for Instagram. That's the kind of thing people write down on sticky notes and put on their mirror. And this is the part that Love Island fans kept coming back to. This is a woman who just a few months ago was on a dating show, crying on a villa daybed. And now she's on stage accepting a self-love award with her mom presenting it and a room full of industry heavyweights clapping for her. But the speeches were only half the story. Because after the award, people started paying attention to who else was paying attention to Olandria. And that's when things got even more surreal.
If you watched any clips from that self-love award night or the events around it, you probably noticed something. It wasn't just random influencers in that room. You had Cierra, Kalani, Janae Aiko, Mariah the Scientist, and other major names connected to this moment, either by attending the gala, posting about it, or interacting with Olandria online. And honestly, the internet could have handled a couple of supportive posts. But then a specific clip of Mariah the Scientist started circulating. In this video, Mariah is taking photos with Olandria, and you can literally hear her tell Olandria that she's been waiting for this and that she's so happy to see her. Then she's fixing Olandria's dress, taking what looks like her own personal photo, and holding on to her like they're old friends.
Fans online lost it. People were joking that they'd completely malfunction if Mariah spoke to them like that. Others were zooming into the video frame by frame, pointing out every tiny detail, the grip on the waist, the way Mariah leans in, the excitement in her voice. This is the part where the script flips. For years, viewers sat at home watching reality contestants be starstruck by singers, actors, and recording artists. Now you've got those same artists treating Olandria like the main character, reposting her, commenting on her pictures, and speaking about her with genuine admiration. And it wasn't just Mariah. You had Cierra dropping love in the comments, Kalani joking about still looking for Olandria's waist in that dress, other stars casually including her in their posts, like she's part of their regular circle. At that point, people started saying things like, adding Love Island to her name low-key feels disrespectful now. She's standing next to stars who are actually her peers. And honestly, they weren't wrong.
If you're still watching right now, you're officially more loyal than half the couples on Love Island. Go ahead and hit subscribe. It's free, it helps the channel, and it tells the algorithm you want more Nicolandria tea instead of another random prank video in your recommendations. Because as wild as all of this is, Olandria's award nights were just one chapter. The next big shift happened at a place where very few Love Island contestants ever end up, the world of F1.
Formula One weekends are basically the Olympics of flexing. You've got racing legends, billionaires, musicians, actors, and influencers all packed into the same city, the same paddock, the same VIP lounges. If you want to measure someone's new level of fame, check whether they're at F1 and who they're standing next to. So when fans realized that Nic and Olandria were both popping up in F1 content, the timeline went into detective mode. There were shots of them in the mix with major names, clips of them living their best life at parties, and even more evidence that this couple had fully leveled up from villa beanbags to billionaire grandstands. But the real spiral started over a single post.
Olandria shared something that fans read as a direct manifestation. It connected her stylist's work with a look that echoed Beyoncé's F1 appearance and added a caption that sounded like a wink to the universe. She's already said that a dream collaboration would be with Beyoncé, so of course her fans took that and ran full speed into manifestation territory. Timelines turned into vision boards. People were posting things like, "I don't care how it happens, I just need Olandria and Beyoncé in the same frame," and F1 is so stacked this year, if there isn't at least one Nicolandria x Beyoncé moment, the universe owes us a refund.
On top of that, Olandria shared videos from parties and events that weekend, where she was seen around more big names, people like Travis Scott, Jordan Woods, Logan Paul, and others who live in that elite crossover space between sports, music, and internet fame. And through all of that, Nic is right there, not just as the guy from a dating show, but clearly comfortable in those rooms, blending his DJ, content, and personality life into the mix. It's one thing to score an invite. It's another thing when you look like you belong there. But while Olandria was busy turning F1 and award shows into manifestations in real time, Nic was getting ready to make a move that almost no one had on their bingo card.
When Nic first left the villa, most people expected the usual path. A DJ set here, a brand trip there, maybe some clothing hauls and TikTok skits. And to be fair, he did lean into the DJ lane and into his food/content side, especially with that food review content and the Houston barbecue tour that had people stalking restaurant interiors like they were CSI. But then he dropped something different. A collaboration with Google where he's not just a guy holding a product or dancing in the background. He's acting. In this holiday-style campaign, he plays a character. Fans heard the name Jack Hall and what looks like a cozy list-style store setup. Think festive, story-driven, and way more narrative than the average influencer ad. And the reactions said it all.
Some fans were like, "Wait, Nic is out here acting? Since when?" Others were joking that he's finally getting paid to do what he's been doing on Love Island, playing a character in a chaotic social experiment. But underneath the jokes was something more serious. This was a sign brands see him as more than just Olandria's boyfriend or that Love Island DJ. They're trusting him to carry a storyline, connect with viewers, and represent a massive company. For someone whose journey included getting dragged online, dealing with villa rumors, and even having his relationships questioned in front of the entire internet, that's a serious pivot. Meanwhile, he's still showing up front row for Olandria, filming her runway moments, hyping her up, and leaning into this role where the relationship and their individual careers feed into each other instead of competing.
Nic could have coasted on being the funny guy from the villa. Instead, he's building something slow and strategic. DJ gigs, food content, and now acting. It's not as flashy as one viral controversy, but it's way more sustainable. And when you put his Google collab next to Olandria's awards and fashion run, you start to see the bigger picture. This isn't just two reality stars stumbling into random opportunities. This is a couple building a brand. Now we need to talk about the visuals, because no matter how many awards you win, if the photos don't hit, the internet moves on in 24 hours. Olandria clearly understood the assignment. At the 2025 MTV VMAs, she showed up in that molten red custom gown, sculpted bodice, sheer panels, gloves, the whole "you're gonna remember this" package. Fashion sides and culture pages picked it up immediately, calling her one of the standout looks of the night. Nic, on the other hand, pulled a sleek black satin suit with an open shirt and silver chains. Simple, but calculated. He wasn't trying to outshine her. He was complimenting the moment. Together, the visuals made sense. She's the fire, he's the cool contrast. Even when they didn't walk every carpet side by side, the camera still found a way to link them. There's that shot of Nic holding the train of her gown, helping her navigate the red carpet like a personal assistant with boyfriend privileges. It's meme-worthy, but it's also a visual that tells brands everything they need to know. This is a duo you can build campaigns around. And it didn't stop there. Olandria walked the runway for Sergio Hudson at New York Fashion Week, serving a fierce, polished runway walk in a bold pattern look. Fashion coverage highlighted not just the outfit, but how naturally she fit into that environment, with Nic proudly filming from the front row. Then you've got the Glamour Women of the Year Awards, where she was singled out as one of the best dressed. You've got the CFDA Fashion Awards in a custom Brandon Blackwood gown that reportedly took over 120 hours to create. You've got her Harper's Bazaar Vietnam digital cover and culturalists praising her as part of a new wave of influential young figures. Most Love Island contestants dream of a Pretty Little Thing collab and a couple of fast fashion sponsorships. Olandria skips straight to high-fashion gowns, studio-lit covers, and walking for designers who show during the biggest fashion weeks in the world. Meanwhile, other familiar names from that Love Island Season 7 cast, Ace, Taylor, Cierra, Huda, are still active, posting, doing their own projects, and maintaining their lanes. But if we're talking about post-show reach, crossover into mainstream spaces, and impact beyond the Love Island fandom, Nicolandria is in a completely different bracket now. And that brings us to the one piece that quietly connects all of these wins. Because glow-ups like this don't happen in a vacuum. They happen when a fandom refuses to let the timeline move on.
Let's be honest, none of this happens without the fans. From day one, Nicolandria Nation was on a mission. They weren't just tweeting clips, they were organizing voting campaigns, pushing edits, dissecting micro-expressions, and turning every interview or appearance into new content. When Olandria was nominated for awards, her supporters didn't just say, "Oh, that's nice." They went into full campaign mode, rallying people to vote, share, and show up. At one point, a fan-shared live stream from an event reportedly had over 600 people waiting just to watch her accept an award. That's not casual curiosity. That's commitment. Every time a brand posted Olandria or Nic, the comments were filled with heart emojis, inside jokes, and Nicolandria tags. Every red carpet shot turned into a new round of "They look like a movie," "The Van Carthens," and "This is reality TV royalty."
Even the drama works in their favor. People who are convinced the relationship is just PR still watch every clip, break down every interaction, and argue about them on TikTok and Reddit. Whether you're team "they're real," team "they're strategic," or team "I don't trust anyone on a dating show," you're still contributing to the numbers. That kind of engagement is gold for networks, brands, event organizers, and stylists. It's the difference between being that one girl from Love Island and being on set for a Google campaign, on a runway at NYFW, or holding a self-love award while your mother gives a spiel in your honor. And the crazy part? It still feels like early days. Fans are already speculating about what could be next for Nic and Olandria. More acting roles for Nic if the Google campaign hits the way people expect. Bigger brand campaigns or ambassadorships for Olandria in fashion, beauty, or tech. A documented milestone moment with someone like Beyoncé, especially after all that F1 manifesting. Maybe even a joint project, a show, a docuseries, or some kind of long-form content that lets people see more of their dynamic outside of the villa and red carpets.
Will every relationship from a dating show last forever? No. But that's almost not the point anymore. The point is that Nic and Olandria took a storyline that could have ended when the villa lights turned off and turned it into a full-on career arc. From Love Island Season 7 chaos, Ace, Taylor, Cierra, and the Love Island Huda drama, to award stages, runways, Google campaigns, and rooms where your favorite singers are suddenly their fans. And if this is what they did with just a few months out of the villa, imagine what the next year looks like. Maybe they become one of those couples people reference when they talk about reality TV success stories. Maybe they go their separate ways and still stay individually iconic. Either way, the impact is already locked in. Because no matter how you feel about Love Island USA, one thing is pretty clear. Nicolandria didn't just survive the villa, they won the part that actually matters. Life after reality TV.
If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of Nic and Olandria Nation, whether you like it or not. Hit subscribe, tap like, and drop a comment telling me your favorite Nic and Olandria moment. Villa era, VMAs, award stage, or that F1 manifesting chaos? I'll be stalking the comments like it's a reunion episode.